Ladies and gentlemen, from all of the corners of our continent, good morning and welcome to the Africa Shared Value Leadership E-Summit. And certainly, I guess, the first of its type, if we consider how all of us are connecting to each other this morning. It's a great pleasure to be with you. My name is Ayabonga Tawe. I am a development economist, a broadcaster, and a policy advisor based here in South Africa. And I'm going to be your MC. It is the KCB Day. Today, our session's proudly sponsored by the KCB Group, and some of our discussions also being flighted across KCB's offices in many nations on our continent, least of all in East Africa, that is in Rwanda, Burundi, and in Kenya. And it's great to be with you all this morning. Unfortunately, the CEO of KCB, Joshua Oigara, couldn't join us today, but we certainly do have the power of women. And Jane Mwangi, who's the director at the KCB Foundation, which has done very impactful work, as you would have seen in the video that we just played, will be joining us in the next few minutes or so. She'll also be with us for our masterclass later on this morning. I'd like to take this opportunity to call up Jane Mwangi, Managing Director and at the KCB Foundation. And Jane's going to be joining us to talk about some of the work KCB has been doing. You would have seen that in the video, an initiative like Tujia Jiari, and also she'll also speak to some of the great work that she's also had an opportunity to do with other partners in the East African space. Let me give the platform to Jane. Jane, welcome. A good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. And let me start by saluting Professor Shiaka, the Rwanda Minister for Local Government, our distinguished entrepreneurs who are so much the guest of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, a good morning. My name is Jane Mwangi. I'm the Managing Director of KCB Foundation. But today I'm happy to stand in this gap on behalf of Joshua Oigara, who is our group CEO, who really desired to be with us this morning. And I was also looking forward to being with us live in a live summit as we had planned early in the year. But because of COVID, of course, now we are having to do everything virtually. We are happy to be part of the sponsors of this event. And the reason why this is so important to us is because we do recognize that entrepreneurship is core to KCB Group. And it's core because we realize that entrepreneurs are really the catalysts of any economic growth. For us, if we think about the case of supporting entrepreneurs as a KCB Group, we look at the critical role they play in the economy, and that critical role is not just the role of job creation, but also the role of creating, making payments to governments in terms of tax returns, and just building a whole economy. When COVID happened, definitely we did realize that a lot of our enterprises, customers were so much affected. And in that, at that moment, we therefore had to step in as a group to see how we could support the businesses. And for us, the businesses are not just the big corporates, is where we start right from the startups. You look at the micro businesses. We want to look at small businesses, medium businesses, all the way up to the big corporate businesses, because businesses, the big corporates that we see today are the ones that really started as small startups back, in the years, and have, through a lot of tenacity and a lot of hard work, have grown to become the big corporates of today. And so therefore, as a KCB Group, looking at all of them, the whole spectrum, right from the small startups all the way to the big corporates, how have we therefore stepped in to work with them during this pandemic period? And we are happy to say that through the shared value philosophy, a philosophy that really exposes the need for corporates to see how to step in situations such as this. We went ahead and looked at the needs of the communities, the needs of the businesses themselves, because businesses transform, communities. And we said the first thing, therefore, is to give them a relief. And giving them relief for us was looking at the fact that a lot of them had to shut because of the pandemic. And during that period when they were shut, is really feeling, being empathizing with the businesses and saying, let's restructure the loans. Let's look at the needs that they bring to the table. And the needs that they have, the needs they brought to the table for us was need to give them more time to repay their loans. And especially because at that moment, you're really saying with the pandemic, not much business is happening. You don't see people being able to sell the wares they were selling. If it's more shops, offices are closed. Life is not what it was. But therefore saying the intervention that was so appropriate at that moment was the intervention of saying, let's restructure the loans. First thing, stop having them repay the principals. The principal amount, the interest amount. And so we went ahead as a business and gave them 3 to 6 months moratorium based on, the sectors, because not all sectors have been affected by the pandemic at the same, same level. When we think about the business we're also doing on the mobile digital platforms and the KCB Mobile, we went ahead and also decided to reschedule, restructure a lot of the loans that they have. We removed the balance inquiries, the fees that we charge them for balance inquiries, the transfer of money between one mobile wallet to the bank account. All those are charges that we have waived. And in total, let me say that on behalf of the group CEO, because I'm really delivering this message and the efforts that he has done, not just for Kenya, because KCB Group, we have, we are in 7 countries, and we know that we are doing a lot of business, especially in Rwanda, Uganda, Tanzania, Burundi, South Sudan, and Kenya itself is where we have therefore gone ahead. And to date, we have recapitalized the principal and interest in arrears since March to the tune of about $2 billion. That is so much to the small businesses, and really saying that the cost of restructuring all those loans is a cost that we are saying, we are ready to bear, and we have borne as an entity. And of course, also we have also gone ahead to the digital platforms, which is also a partnership that we have with Safaricom itself. We've gone ahead and already extended about $100 million. That's about 10 billion Kenya shillings worth of loans to those customers in terms of now just restructuring the loans that they had for us, with us. And then the reason why that has been important for us is because under the shared value concept, we do not operate in a vacuum. We as a business, we cannot say that we are separated or far away from the needs of the businesses, because we do recognize that for us to make the profits that we make as a business, it is through the small enterprises, all the way building up the building blocks from a startup to a micro business to a small business to a middle-sized business and to a big corporate. And looking at all of them holistically, therefore, we realize that it's important to support them. And the support is not just necessarily a financial support. It's not just giving them loans. We look at the needs of entrepreneurs holistically as a package. And in terms of that package is also recognizing that they need a lot of just business support. We as a corporate, when you look at big corporates all over Africa, they are able to engage or to go ahead and contract the likes of big consulting firms to come and give them support. But that same, that same practice is a practice that small businesses are not able or do not have the luxury of engaging. Yet it's a very, very, very critical, service that consulting firms provide to businesses. And what it is we did as a corporate, KCB corporate group all over, the countries that we are serving, is now work closely with KCB Foundation, which is so much the social arm of business, and begin to say, let's build the capacity of all these small businesses to grow. And in growing these small businesses, we did look at what the components they need in order for them to move from one stage to the other. And holistically looking at all that, we look at access to credit as only one component. But before access to credit is where we say, supposing we make them technically sound. And by technically, looking at technical soundness of any business, is beginning to ask ourselves, as the micro businesses open up their business, do they really have the technical ability to run the business? For example, if I want to open a business as a hairdresser, am I technically sound to run a salon? Do I even have the technical know-how and the science behind doing hair? And so the first thing, therefore, as KCB Group, we did is to therefore think of how to do things scientifically by looking at all the needs and intervening at different levels. So the first level of intervention for us has always been building the businesses' capacity technically, training the businesses on technical soundness. Because if they are technically sound in the field that they have chosen to be in, then they are bound to have better results. But besides the technical soundness, and this is part of what KCB Group has therefore partnered or financed the foundation to do, is then to look at how to give the small businesses access to finance. And in giving them access to finance is where, again, we say credit is not it's not a standard loan. There are various levels of credit that are needed in any small business. And these levels of credit are, they're different from each other in the sense that you need a startup capital, you need a working capital, and you need tools of trade. And if you have one and not the other, then what happens is that you see a business, it has ability to start, but it has no ability to sustain itself because it got the startup capital, but it struggles every day with the working capital. And therefore, what KCB Group in large has done is to come and say, let's now give businesses a holistic package, a package that will allow the business to really be able to thrive. And so we give access to credit, those three types of credits that we are talking about: startup capital, working capital, and tools of trade. Because tools of trade is what will allow the small businesses, right from the micro level all the way to the corporate level, be able to realize or be able to realize the efficiency they need for a higher outcome. And besides all that, therefore, then you look at issues of supporting those businesses in terms of business incubation and incubating the businesses. What it is we have done as KCB Group is to therefore provide the small businesses with consulting, consulting facilities. And in that, once again, the group has partnered with the foundation in beginning to train consultants to do the incubations of the business. And when you look at a big corporate, what do we see as services that are provided by several consultants that make the corporates very successful? One is legal service. We begin with legal service because you want all these businesses to be formally set up and to have that legal backing that allows them even to be recognized by government as formal businesses, moving from informality to formality. But all that is usually done through legal, service. Then, of course, we do have marketing. Marketing service is good because no matter how good a product you have, if you don't know how to package it and put it on the streets, then there isn't much that you are doing. And so once again, that is a service that we have considered to be very important and most critical is the accounting service. And so what the KCB Group has committed to do, especially to the Tudiajiri program under the KCB Foundation, is to provide those three critical consulting services to the small businesses, not only in Kenya, but all the way in Rwanda, in Uganda, in Tanzania, in Burundi, in South Sudan, because we are saying if we support these small businesses by giving them these consulting services, which they themselves cannot afford to contract because resources are limited, then what happens is that with that support and a combination of access to credit, what we are bound to see is a lot of growth. And this is why we are happy. The CEO was glad to have sponsored this event today because it's not just word, but it's saying we shall put our money where our word is, because if these small businesses all are able to grow, then collectively we are able to make a big contribution to the economies of Africa. And above all, we are able to create jobs also for the young people, because it's these informal businesses, it's the entrepreneurs of today who really create the jobs opportunities for the youth. In Rwanda itself, I know that so far we have started the Ijure program. We have sponsored about 290 young people. We are looking to grow those those numbers. In Kenya alone, we have done 37,000 young people that we are working with, and we have established over 5,000 small startups that we are busy supporting through the incubation process. We are beginning to go to Tanzania. We just started last year, and once again, have put in big resources. We sponsored over 200 young people. And going to Uganda and South Sudan is part of what it is, the agenda that we are doing this year. As a conclusion is really to say that the small businesses of today that you see is really our future big corporates. But saying that entrepreneurship is hard, it is so much the act of planting a seed and having the faith that it will grow. It is a lot of tenacity. It is a lot of hard work. And if we as big corporates, as banks, we don't step in to intentionally support the businesses, especially during this pandemic season, then what will happen is that we'll all bring down the economies. But if we intentionally say we'll have the courage to give them all the support, to handhold them, to be tenacious enough to move them forward every single day, then what we see as small today is what we shall celebrate as big corporates tomorrow for Africa by Africans, and really making a big contribution in creating jobs for our youth, who are really our pillar. And then with those remarks, therefore, let's say that KCB Group, on behalf of our group CEO, we are staying the course. We are looking forward to scaling all the businesses we have started, and the ones that are still ongoing during this hard period. We ask you and we urge you to stay put, to stay strong, because under the shared value initiative and the concept, we are committed to the cause, and we are with you along the journey. We have all the faith, and that's why we have put our money where we believe that the future belongs. And the future, as our CEO always says, the future belongs to the doers. It is you who wake up every single morning to do the hard work. And I'm sure that Professor Shiaka of Rwanda, the Minister of Local Government, will agree with me that as corporates are doing whatever they're doing, governments are giving corporates all the support, and we are in it together because we all look to have a bright future. And that's exactly what sustainability is all about. We cannot afford to have anything collapse, but we must all pull together during this difficult moment, and there is light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to share those thoughts on behalf of our group CEO and KCB Group at large.
Thank you very much for those remarks, Jane, and really speaking about, I guess, the immediate concerns in the moment for many small and medium-sized enterprises. And I really like that comment at the end that the future belongs to the doers. And Jane Mwangi, the Managing Director of the KCB Foundation, which is the social investment arm of the KCB Group. And a big thank you to her for really sharing some of the work that they're doing, be it in the credit space, right through to working capital support and incubation, and even bringing to bear consulting services that are needed for many early stage enterprises.